Good morning and welcome everyone. We're just going to give everyone a minute to log in before we get started. Before we kick things off, I'd like to walk everyone through the features of the platform today. In front of you, you will see the presentation screen, which will display all slides and demos. There's also a screen containing the bio information of today's presenters. You will also see a Q&A box where you are encouraged to type any questions you may have during today's presentation. We will try to answer them all accordingly. Lastly, there will also be a box containing today's handouts. There will be a copy of today's presentation, which you can download, as well as other IFRS materials. Now I will be turning it over to Evan Fardlinger, who will start off today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Today we're looking to build off of our June the 3rd presentation where we walked through IFRS 17 and lessons learned from our front runners, where we again went through many of the different components of IFRS 17. Today we'll be focusing on the Pragmatic IFRS 17 solutions in action, and we'll look to provide demonstrations for both Insure Hub as well as the risk integrity tools that we'll be using for IFRS 17. To kick us off in terms of who will be part of this presentation, I'll actually pass it over to Kyle. Kyle, over to you.
Thank you, Evan. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Kyle Rudden, and I'm a consulting actuary working in the Caribbean. This morning, some of our Canadian colleagues will be sharing their experiences and suggestions for dealing with some of the issues involved in implementing IFRS 17 in the Caribbean. I'm very interested in learning what has been working with the smaller Canadian entities and what they think can work here. First of all, I'd like to introduce Daryl Sinek and Alexander Ng from BDO Canada. BDO is one of the world's largest accountancy and advisory organizations with over 80,000 partners and staff throughout the world. They have good representation throughout the Caribbean. And I should mention also that everybody's bios should be seen on the upper left of your screen if you want more details. We also have Evan Fardlinger, who you met just now, who is with Optimus SBR, which is a very well-regarded independent management consultancy based in Canada. And Evan has quite a bit of experience in IFRS 17 implementations in Canada and beyond. And lastly, but not least, we have Serge Boutet, who is a consulting actuary with Valani Global Consulting. And Serge is no stranger to the Caribbean, having done a lot of work in the Caribbean over the years. And he is an expert in the Moody's Axis and risk integrity systems used for IFRS 17. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. Back to you, Evan.
All right, so I think you would have captured the capabilities of our organization. So today we'll flip to what our agenda is looking like. So we'll start off by talking a little bit about the IFRS 17 journey so far and where the industry has progressed. We'll then talk about some of the key considerations for IFRS 17 solutions with a focus specifically on the Caribbean market. Again, I think what we're looking to do is then demonstrate pragmatic IFRS 17 solutions in action, again, tailored towards individuals within that market. We'll then flip to a roundtable Q&A where folks can ask us questions and we'll provide insights. And if we don't get to your questions, again, we'll look to respond to those post the webinar. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about how we might be able to help to accelerate you through your IFRS 17 journey with those pragmatic solutions. All right, so we've introduced you to IFRS 17 before. The focus on this call, as I'd mentioned, we had done a webinar on June the 3rd where we'd focused on the journey And so here we see our snake diagram comprised of the different components, and we'll actually get back to this in a little bit because I think it's changed quite a bit since we last spoke about it. We also spoke about the complexities of IFRS 17, how it builds upon itself, and the different intricacies of how that works, as well as simplifications for the Caribbean market and ways that we would be able to essentially bring it to a more simpler version. We also talked about the different approaches in order to become IFRS 17 compliant. And that was basically speaking through an iterative approach of building out IFRS 17 for a base case and building on different components and attributes in order to be fully IFRS 17 compliant. And then we talked about the challenges and lessons from the front runners, where we focused on the standard complexity and the expensive implementation, the different systems, processes, and financial reporting, the various data challenges, the practicality of an IFRS 17 engine for the Caribbean, again, with these being very complex, as well as cross-functional execution demands. And so as part of our presentation around the pragmatic solutions, what we'll be looking to do is speak to how these solutions actually take care of some of these challenges, which we'd previously introduced as well. I'll pass it over to Kyle, where he'll speak to where the insurers are in their journey.
Thanks, Evan. I should mention that links to the previous webinar are in the handout section on your screen. So if you did actually miss the seminar that was done in June, which went into a lot more detail on IFRS 17 itself, that's available for you to take in at your leisure if you have trouble sleeping. So where are the insurers in the Caribbean and indeed around the world? In a recent poll done at an IFRS 17 session by the Insurance Association of the Caribbean that I happened to be at, the approximately 70% of participants indicated that they really hadn't started IFRS 17 at all or had made very little progress. I suspect that that must be the smaller companies, and particularly the P&C or general insurance companies. When we had done our own poll for our last seminar, we had picked up somewhat less, but still a very significant percentage of people who hadn't started or who were very early on in their path to IFRS 17. What we also had noted was that many people had not begun to think about issues. One of the first questions you have to ask is, are we going to aim for just minimum compliance, which is what a lot of people go for, or are we going to try and use all of this pain, transformational pain that we have to go through to generate better business information? And a lot of people haven't even made that decision yet. Do you have anything to add to that, Evan?
No, I think that actually leads very well into our next slide, which talks about essentially how the IFRS 17 journey has changed. And now it's basically a straight line to the finish. So where we saw that a lot of folks had not yet begun or had not made considerations for the path to adoption that they would like to go down, again, I think that's really shortened up the ability to actually implement IFRS 17. And so the suggestion that we've had is that it's no longer the snake-like path. It's a straight line to the finish where folks will need an IFRS 17 assessment, identification of an implementation plan, and then moving into the cross-functional implementation. Again, even if you are a P&C type organization, that IFRS 17 assessment allows you to generate that plan. And even if you determine that you have more time than you might think, again, that's always built into a plan. And so that's our recommendation, is to continue to move forward with that IFRS 17 assessment to ensure IFRS 17 compliance. All right, so in terms of key considerations for the IFRS 17 solution, I'll flip it back over to Kyle, who will say, where are the considerations for the Caribbean when we're thinking about IFRS 17 implementation? Because the complexities, I think, in and of themselves, generally lend themselves to larger insurers. So over to you, Kyle. Well, we might have lost Kyle with his connection. So based on previous discussions with Kyle, he has identified that in many cases, poor data infrastructures. Oh, are you back, Kyle? I see you on air.
I get
The poor data
hello testing.
infrastructures that are sometimes set up within smaller insurers. Yep. Hi, Kyle.
I'm back.
It's back over to you around the considerations for the Caribbean. I was just going
Thank you
through
so
the
much.
poor data infrastructure.
And maybe internet connectivity as well from time to time. But and you can't blame us. I mean, all of Microsoft went down yesterday. So yeah, thanks for covering for me there, Evan. So yes, we do have. When I say poor data infrastructure, your data may be good enough to run your company, but it usually isn't good enough to produce the data that, for whatever reason, the IASB requires for the complexity of your IFRS 17 calculations. And actually, in practice, especially for smaller entities, the data infrastructure may not be the greatest at an absolute level either. One of the things we have noticed is that IFRS 17 solutions that are developed in the metropolitan countries have to deal with a great deal of sophistication, whether it's in taxation structures, product structures, regulatory structures, than we typically see in the Caribbean. And that's one of the reasons why the IFRS 17 solutions are so much more expensive than the average Caribbean entity can afford, frankly. We have much lower economies of scale and much smaller entities than would be typical in, for example, a North American market. In a very practical sense, we also have to we lack data to to specify actuarial or other assumptions. We also lack the national data or regional data to try and calibrate those assumptions against. So it can be quite challenging, for example, to develop a yield curve in the Caribbean. Certainly not in the way that, say, a North American actuary would understand how they would do it. And one of the challenges is that IFRS 17 requires a great deal more of your business analytics. And basically, unless you are already the user of something extremely expensive and complex like Oracle, then your systems are not going to be able to produce the information you need for IFRS 17. And there's actually also another challenge. Let's suppose you go ahead and pay a lot of money, implement, develop. Well, 2 years down the road, when you add another product, unless you have an internal actuarial department, a well-staffed IT department with lots of extra resources, you're now going to have to find more money to bring in more external resources to reconfigure for your new products or anything else that changes along the way. And that's just the realities of life in small countries and developing countries generally. So yes, Evan, we are interested to hear what you guys have been able to do with small companies in Canada and see how we can scale that and use that to help us out. Over to you, Evan.
And I think that's where we have some great solutions that, again, we will look to show over the next number of minutes, basically that are able to walk through and talk about how we can fill in those gaps that you've talked about, Kyle. I'll flip it over now to Daryl, who'll begin to speak about data governance and the pragmatic solutions we have around data in terms of an Insure Hub.
Great. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Kyle, for that. You know, in supporting a number of insurers, we have come to learn that IFRS 17 is not your typical project in many ways, and its impact in data is very, very significant. Insurers have been looking to advance their data maturity for a number of years, and IFRS 17 really provides a nice catalyst for making that happen. In fact, we have seen data maturity advancement now becoming a key success driver for most in their IFRS 17 programs. And we're going to look at a number of ways to really advance your data maturity, your data strategy together while advancing your IFRS 17 program and getting really the economies of scale there. As mentioned, IFRS 17 requires to have a really good handle on data. And we have outlined a number of areas where IFRS 17 program will require advanced data capability. In particular, financial and actuarial decisions required to implement the standard require enhanced data capability from a granularity and a management perspective. Improved data quality and auditability for calculations is required, and readily accessible data for financial and operational management reporting, also into the disclosures, is a key consideration. So we're going to look at ways to advance your data maturity with the implementation of IFRS 17. In working with a number of organizations on their data strategies, we have found that process challenges are often overlooked. However, they often yield to the greatest gains once they're addressed. Many equate process and governance to overhead, hampering the momentum to improve data maturity within an organization. To improve data governance required for IFRS 17, we recommend that organizations look at ownership and accountability of their data. Any gaps or duplications often lead to trouble. Look at alignment of roles and responsibilities of data. Any misalignment leads to confusion. Look at the ability to understand and discover data. Any lack of availability often means unrealized potential. And to address process challenges, we have established a pragmatic approach to help organizations with their data governance strategies. We have seen many organizations start with a very robust data strategy, and then after a few months or a year, it often tapers out and minimal traction and uptake is taken. And what we find is that's often a result of the people aspect of the journey not being given the attention it deserves. Some organizations think give them a tool and they'll figure it out. Our observation is that most don't actually figure it out. Many reject it, and most just go back to using Excel as their preferred analytics tool of choice. Our recommendation is to really pay close attention to the people aspect of a data journey. It's required to build momentum, drive the change, and sustain adoption for the new data reality. Modern analytics technology has evolved significantly in the areas of storage, analysis, and prediction. Cloud analytics provides cost-effective alternative for analyzing vast amounts of data. Analysis tools are far more powerful and self-service than they've ever been before. And then AI and predictive technologies have matured to the point of being mainstream and have been adopted successfully by many organizations. A comprehensive approach to your analytics technology, including both the relational defined side of your data ecosystem as well as the big data side of your data landscape, is recommended to bring it all together. And in leveraging the Microsoft platform for a number of years, the Azure platform, we have found it to be an excellent cloud-based platform. It's a very cost-effective platform, noting some of the cost considerations that Kyle mentioned earlier on in the presentation. We found the Microsoft Azure platform to just be a brilliant platform from a capability and a cost-effectiveness perspective. We have based our IFRS 17 solution, which we're going to talk about and show about in a few slides, based on the Microsoft Azure platform, and primarily based on its ability to just naturally fit into many of our clients' IT ecosystems. It allows for organizations to start small, adopt, and scale as the value is realized. So we're really going to take a look at that solution in action over the next couple of slides. When we look at when we look at the IFRS challenge from an IT perspective, there are many IT impacts which are being realized by insurers all around the world as they take a look at this. Insurers have been wrestling with a number of IT environmental challenges, and then along comes IFRS 17, and it really intersects and impacts a really large cross-section of your IT landscape, from your policy admin systems to your actuarial systems to your financial systems. We have seen a number of IT challenges really magnified by IFRS 17, challenges around system agility, system connectedness perspective. And many insurers are looking for solutions to connect it all together. And that's what we've established. We've established a platform to really bring it all together, connect it all together, all built on the Microsoft platform. So BDO has established a data accelerator called Insure Hub to address the data integration, the data management, the calculation, the financial reporting, the operational reporting needs of IFRS 17. It's a cloud-first solution built on the Microsoft platform, allowing clients to easily adopt it into their IT environments. It's built with all of the data management and data governance practices of a modern data architecture, accelerating not only the journey for IFRS 17 forward, but also many elements of your data strategy and your data maturity forward. In addition, the solution helps propel insurers forward from an advanced analytics capabilities perspective. Now, just taking a look at the advanced capabilities, Insure Hub consists of a number of key components required from a modern data architecture and a modern analytics capabilities. It has a vast array of business intelligence and advanced analytics capabilities to provide self-service business insights to the business. It helps organizations step into the world of AI, equipping them with the fundamentals required to leverage the data science domain for workloads like risk management, customer intelligence, growth of the business. So let's take a look at that solution in action. And we're going to take a look at it. Alex is going to showcase it in a number of segments. We're going to look at it from first a data connectivity perspective. Then we're going to take a look at the calculation engine, financial statements, management reports, and then advanced analytics and its AI potential. So Alex, I hope you're ready. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. So as Daryl mentioned, we have a Accelerator Insure Hub that reduces the amount of time an organization requires to connect all of your systems together and prepare the single data repository of all insurance data. What Insure Hub looks like goes into a lot of technical details, but it's basically a library of reusable components, which you can see some of them on the left, which are built within the Microsoft Azure cloud to connect all of your systems together. And this is a glimpse of what that flexible data pipeline looks like. To better illustrate to be able to see all of the inputs and outputs through Insure Hub. So what you're able to see through these Power BI reports are all of your policy inputs, your chart of accounts, your portfolio groups, your IFRS 17 assumptions that have been imported into Insure Hub. As well, you're able to see all other inputs from your policy management systems and actuarial systems. With all of your IFRS 17 data in one data repository, the IFRS 17 calculations can now be performed. Insure Hub contains a configurable PAA calculation engine for each of your components of IFRS 17. Or you're able to link to their common calculation engines in the marketplace. All of their calculations can be configured based on your IFRS 17 policy decisions. And the output of that job is an audit history of all of the calculations that were performed so that an auditor can ensure compliance with IFRS 17. With all of the calculations performed, the IFRS 17 reports and disclosures can now be generated, and we can see their comparative reports, including your balance sheet, your deferred cost calculation, and loss component. I'll now pass it back to Daryl to introduce the next section.
Great, thanks, Alex. And Alex, just on your end, there was a little bit of choppiness with your connectivity there.
Okay.
The full spectrum of analytics is quite involved, and for the purpose of this presentation, we wanted to simplify it to key storage, key analysis, and key prediction capabilities. Our observation is to make AI work, you really need to get storage, analysis, and prediction right, and we'll go through each of those perspectives in the following slides. First off, cloud has really opened up a new level of capabilities for data. Cloud offers cost-effective storage. Clients are buying all types of data to enrich their sources of the truth and to build value for their organizations. And cloud makes it easy to connect all kinds of different types and structures of data together for analytical models. Most insurers have incorporated some level of cloud into their overall data strategies. When looking at analysis capabilities, often organizations turn to Excel, but there is much more out there than just Excel alone. Business intelligence platforms have really matured and evolved over the last number of years, and they contain a vast array of capabilities, from dashboards to scorecards to investigative portals, data mining, drill down, spatial analysis, and the list goes on and on and on. In any AI program, you really need to look at the data investigation capabilities. Some don't spend enough time analyzing the data and understanding the questions around the questions, the experiment around the experiment, and the answers around the answers. Machine learning and artificial intelligence really offers insurers a new way to correlate data, all kinds of different types of data, and provide new insights into the business that weren't available just even a few years ago. When looking at correlating data, we find most organizations either want to understand the why something happened or occurred, and that's generally within the unsupervised learning space, or project outcomes for events occurring in the future, and that's generally in the supervised learning space. And we're going to see those capabilities in action in Alex's presentation through a client case study with SCHC and Erie Mutual Insurance. So SCHC has served the mutual insurance community since the mid-90s, implementing and providing policy management platform called Titan. But over that time, the analytics capability of the platform had aged and had lagged behind. SCHC's objective was to transform the analytics platform with a cloud-first mindset, leveraging Microsoft Azure to really benefit all their clients. And one of their key clients is Erie Mutual Insurance. The net outcome of this analytics transformation has resulted in Erie Mutual and others being able to have full insight into their business and leverage the potential of AI for operations optimization, risk management, risk rating, and optimizing the growth of their business. So Alex, would you be able to take us through a demo of the solution in action?
Great. Thank you, Daryl. Hopefully we're less choppy this time. I think there were some connection issues last time. Yeah, so with all of your organizations, customer, policy, claims, and financial data in one data repository allows insurers to enable analytics and machine learning workloads. At the center of the solution that we built for SHC and Erie Mutual was a customer-centric data model that connects all of your customer data together and allows clients rich insights and a 360-degree picture of their customers. This allows an organization to understand who their customer is and their behaviors related to their customers. And we can see all the different perspectives on the left-hand side, from customers to claims to policy to providers. With analytics enabled, organizations now ask, what else can I do with my data? And that's where they look to machine learning and AI workloads. Day-to-day operations and to save costs and increase revenues. There are many applications, including risk modeling for underwriting and customer segmentation for sales. Let me walk you through the risk modeling example that was built for Erie Mutual. Erie Mutual had an underwriting manual where their underwriters would manually run rules to determine whether or not to renew a policy. We started by automating all 30-plus rules in their underwriting manuals. We extended this by making two predictions. The first prediction is whether or not a policy will have a claim within the next year. And the second is the impact of the claim being high, medium, or low. Erie Mutual has now a new pre-renewal report where they can see all upcoming renewals for the next year. And they're able to use this to see all of the rules that were run against that policy and the two prediction results, right? So we can see for the first policy that we've predicted a 65% chance of a claim within the next year, but their impact of that claim is going to be low. Erie Mutual used this report to help better manage their underwriters' time. And once we were able to implement this algorithm, they were able to understand the risk profile of the predicted claims to determine whether they needed to change the underwriting policies related to inspections or customer profile or pricing. I'll now pass it to Serge for the next part of our demo on risk integrity.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about the risk integrity IFRS 17 solution. Being pragmatic in the context of the Caribbean is taking into account the constraints experienced by the various insurers there. And it includes taking into account the fact that inputs can come from a variety of sources, and it can take many formats, sometimes more sophisticated, sometimes less. It also needs a system that will adapt to those sources and formats, and at the same time be able to adapt to the level of aggregation that the inputs will come into. The work process still needs to be adapted to your individual circumstances and to your accounting environment, which differs from company to company. With limited internal resources and budgetary constraints, being pragmatic means having to do as little customization as possible. With risk integrity, you're going to be doing more parameterization of the system than actual customization. There are a lot of out-of-the-box functionalities around the calculation engine, and the work process is pretty flexible and can adapt to your circumstances. So you don't need to change, or you will need to change your process around the IFRS 17 work, but not around the software itself. The outputs also are numerous that are prepared out of the box. What I will do here is to attempt to give you a short display of what I just described using risk integrity, which we believe is particularly well suited to your circumstances. I seem to have issues sharing my screen.
While Serge is fixing his screen, I was just looking up on the internet the size of Erie Mutual. Erie Mutual fire insurance is only 28 million Canadian in assets, which means it's very small by Canadian standards, but that fits the kind of size of a midstream Caribbean company. So that's interesting to know. Sorry, let me just repeat that while we're waiting for Serge. Serge, you're still trying to get back online?
Yes, Serge, but I'm still hung.
You're still hung. While Serge is
go ahead, Kyle.
While Serge is fixing his computer, and that's a Canadian problem, not a Caribbean problem. I just looked up on the internet the size of Erie Mutual, an Erie Mutual fire insurance company. Had assets of about 28 million Canadian, which means it's very small by a Canadian standard, but that's right in the middle where we need it to be for a Caribbean equivalent. So that's interesting. So now Serge is offline completely. So we could ad lib. I could sing.
No, Kyle, why don't we progress to the roundtable question and answer discussion, and then we can ask participants to ask their questions here. We do have a few questions already coming in. So I'll just direct everyone's attention to the question and answers capability of the video platform here. Is if you have any questions for our experts, we have Alex, we have Evan, and as soon as Serge is able to reconnect, we'll have him back. But what we would like you to do is enter into any questions into the questions box, and we'll ask them of our experts here. And I see.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I'm back. I seem to be able to share my screen, so I can resume at any time.
Wonderful. Okay, why don't we progress with the risk integrity demo, please?
Thank you. So when opening up risk integrity, this is the landing page that you will see. Risk integrity is a cloud-based solution as well, and it is divided in 5 areas of activities. You have administration work, where you essentially can identify users who are going to be working in the system, teams to which these users will be related to, and the roles that each team will play in the workflow process during evaluation. There are other elements such as automation and backup elements in this administration area. You will also have an area where you will do data management. If you need to transform data, when you load data, when you want to validate the information, and if you need to transform it, this is essentially where the functionality would be found. There's a workflow area which will help you define the actual steps that are going to be taken during the actual work. So each task will be defined, will be given a date when it's due, and will be assigned to a team to complete. During the work, users will be able to follow that workflow. There's also a subledger subset, which I will show you in a moment, where we essentially store the end result of the accounting work once all the calculations have been done. A lot of the work that is being prepared in risk integrity takes the format of a project. So a project will consist in all of the information, data, and results for one evaluation period. Companies, if I open up one of these projects, what you will essentially find is a series of areas in the project itself, which is going to be identified by the date the valuation covers. Under IFRS 17, as you all know, we will be doing valuation by rolling forward values from start of period to end of period. So in this case here, I will be doing my valuation for my company from December 16 to December 17. And when I go to the next period, I will be doing from December 17 to December 18. Now, the way this system is organized, you can see on the left the project being separated in 7 subsets, which comprise information about supporting data, where we will be defining elements such as the business hierarchy, the way your company is actually structured, the way you intend to follow the information, to analyze the results, and make sure that you understand how the period has actually evolved. You will also see elements around the portfolios, where you actually define the portfolios that are being used in your valuation, their accounting policy, whether it is going to send all financial income and expenses to profit and loss, or OCI, the valuation methods such as GMM, PAA, or VFA, and whether it's actually a reinsurance portfolio or a direct insurance portfolio. You will notice here that there's no difference in risk integrity being looking at a P&C product or at a life insurance product. The information that is specific to your company is broken down in levels. When we import information, we can actually import information at the actual contract level. Now, the calculations of the CSM is performed at the group level, at the IFRS 17 group level. So what that means is, if we bring information at the contract level, there will be some aggregation process that will take place, and risk integrity is set up to accept that. So we can actually bring in a series of contracts. We can we can link them to groups, and we can actually bring the cash flows that will be aggregated to the group level. Likewise, we may actually have information that is more aggregate than the contract level. In this case, we will bring the information such as expenses, for example, which may be coming at the portfolio level. We'll be defining macro level variables that will allow us to disaggregate these variables to the group level, where they'll be used in the calculation of the CSM and in the roll forward of the liabilities. Obviously, most information will be brought into the risk integrity system through the at the group level. This is where we will be uploading the list of groups, the portfolios to which they are attached to, and the business to which they report. This is also where we're going to be bringing locked-in rates, interest rates, and we will be doing calculations. Once all information has been loaded, then we move on to the actual actuarial calculation, where essentially the task here is to aggregate information that needs aggregation and disaggregate what needs to be reduced, and perform the calculations. And the calculations are separated between the liability for incurred claims and the liability for remaining coverage, as well as all the reports generation that is being performed and the analytics that is prepared. So in this case, I can actually run this as at a on a manual basis, but all this can be and will be automated and run through the execution of APIs. Once all of these calculations have been performed and reports have been generated, then we can actually look at results. And this is the way the basic reports are being put together. In this case here, you have access to a list of existing reports that are prepared out of the box, and each of these reports can be made available for each and every level of the business hierarchy. So if I am interested in only my homeowner results, I can actually bring this in and see the information. Risk integrity will carry both the current period and the prior period. In this case here, I am looking at the 2018 valuation, and I do have carried my results from the previous period, which comes from my other model. So results in risk integrity are carried forward from period end to start of the next period. For those reports, they can be viewed and analyzed online, such as this one. Sometimes you will find that results are going to be a little bit bigger, and you can actually download them to Excel workbooks, where you can actually open them up. And for smaller reports, it makes it easier to actually look at. If your report is a more detailed one, which is let's assume we're going to be using the LRC roll forward. This report is a bit bigger, and then bringing in life much easier in moving around and looking at the actual numbers that are being produced. So these are basic out-of-the-box reports that are being prepared. No doubt they will be very useful for disclosure and analysis, but that's by far not the only element that you can actually use. You can do some analysis based on results that have been calculated. This works more or less the same way like a pivot table, where you can actually look at movements and values of CSMs and loss components, and you can actually compare and combine elements from various periods at the same time. So if I want to simplify this table, I would probably just use one element, and I may get rid of some of the variables here that I don't want to see, and then I would just apply the value. And in this case here, I can play around with my pivot table. For those of you who need more sophisticated analysis, these results are easily output and can be taken charge by any business intelligence software. This up to this point, there will be a lot of back and forth and collaboration between actuaries and finance and accountants. Once everyone has actually satisfied themselves that the results are satisfactory, then we will move into the accounting elements of the work. In this case here, Risk Integrity will prepare for you transactions, reconciliation reports, and journal entries. The idea here is that Risk Integrity comes with a master account, which links all rows of results to a master account of its own. And what users will actually do is to link this master account to their own charter of accounts, which they actually can upload into the system and link each and every elements of these accounts. Again, to update these, the chart of account can be exported, updated in Excel, and uploaded back, which makes the updates relatively easy to do. Once these are done, then you can actually do the process, and you can run these and get transactions and journals be prepared. If you're interested in transactions, you will get to see a list of transactions with all of the elements that you need, and then you can actually download these into an Excel workbook the same way you would for any of the other reports. If you're looking at reconciliation, then you will get a series of reports that will give you comments. Here it's a list of errors that may have been found. You'll have trial balance elements, which will allow you to group things either by account or by IFRS 17 group. And you can filter this through the various valuation method to make sure that it's easier to follow. Once you're satisfied with that, then you will actually get to see the entries. And again, you will be able to value and revise all these results. At this point in time, the journal entries are what is called soft postings. So they are not actually posted in the subledger, but they're held here. And you can actually, if you find something, you can go back, change things, and rerun everything, so you finally get it the right way. Once you are satisfied with
Serge, based on having a few of the technical difficulties we did, we're running short on time, and we got about a minute before we need to close.
That's approximately how much I need. Thank you, Lara. So you can actually post this, and at that time, postings will disappear, and you can go back to the actual subledger where they will appear. And here they are really hard posts and expected to be used through. So these results can be exported. So risk integrity can serve as a feeder for other subledger, or can hold some of these things inside itself. It's got user-defined variables, and you can store some of those things. I've tried to show you only a handful of functionalities here from start to end. Hopefully it gave you a bit of an overview of what risk integrity is capable of. So this being said, Daryl, back to you.
Great, Serge. Thank you very much for that. And just one thing to close off on that is the Insure Hub data platform and risk integrity work incredibly well together. Basically, the Insure Hub provides the data connectivity to drive the Insure Hub models. Based on us just drawing short on time and due to a number of the technical items that we encountered, I'm going to ask everyone if they want to just pose the questions that you may have around your IFRS 17 journey into the question window, and we will commit to connecting back with everyone one-on-one on the answers to those questions. So just in wrap up, we only have a few more slides here to go. And as Evan mentioned, really IFRS 17 now is a straight line to the finish. So we very much support that mindset, and we have established a number of service offering and accelerators to help insurers with that straight line to the finish. And so the packages that we've established are really set out in this slide here, where we recommend organizations who are early into their journey, who have not really started a lot of the analysis around what's involved in IFRS 17, to start with a jumpstart assessment. This one allows us to help you from an IT perspective, from an actuarial perspective, from a finance perspective, put together a plan. Go from basically, I'm not sure what the program looks like, to I have a plan, I have estimates, I have a clear straight line to the finish to do the implementation. And then the next offering is really that straight line to the finish. We have established, depending on the complexity of your organization, various IFRS 17 compliance accelerator taking you to that finish line. And then an additive benefit is the offering that we have to the right, where we talked a lot about advancing data maturity, data strategy with the IFRS 17 program. And this offering is really an additive benefit where you're able to achieve both of those outcomes by engaging in one of those. So we're going to leave you with basically two next steps, two potential next steps. Call us. We'd love to help you with your IFRS 17 journey. So if you're in the early stages, we find a jumpstart assessment is really the right next step. If you are interested with either the analytics, the Insure Hub data connectivity platform, or the risk integrity platform, we'd be happy to connect with you to give you a further demo and discuss your particular needs. So on behalf of all of us, we really appreciate everyone's time this morning and wish everyone a safe and happy day.